from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines. This is Iowa Ag Matters. In today's show, I have my biweekly grain marketing update with Micheal Weidner of Landus Cooperative. Dustin continues his monthly chat with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig, and we talk about some of our 2026 Heart of the County Fair Award winners. I'm Riley Smith, one of your hosts for today, and joining me now is Dustin Huffman. Dustin, we're actually only about a couple weeks away from the County Fair Day and being able to recognize those winners at the Iowa State Fair.
Well, we are only about 2 weeks away now today. I shouldn't say about, we are 2 weeks away. And I know, Riley, you've been pretty anxious and ambitious getting ready for that state fair. I know it's like your Christmas time over 11 days there, and you always enjoy going to the fair so much. And, yeah, we are enjoying the time ahead and talking about some of the things with Iowa Secretary Mike Naig later on about some of the programs and events that happen at the fair, and also looking forward to those Heart of the County Fair Award recipients getting their plaques and stuff here coming up that first week as well. And Riley, it's just a busy time for us, also starting to get in contact with who we're going to be talking to. And that's always a big list as well, whether it's politicians or kids that are showing at this Governor's Charity Steer Show, all sorts of Iowa agriculture events going on, and looking forward to that event as always.
Yeah, and it's a big year for those political discussions in particular with midterms coming up this fall. I know there's going to be a lot of politicians milling about on the fairgrounds, and it's always interesting, especially when we get maybe politicians who aren't as much on the ag side or haven't spoken as much on the ag side when we get them in to talk about that, because I think sometimes they have really interesting takes, or you might find that they don't know as much about agriculture and they want to learn about it.
Yeah, it's always interesting to talk with those folks, and there's a whole different world being opened up on some of these people, especially those who are coming on a national scale. Sometimes more so on the presidential election runs, but even on the midterms, we're going to see some more of that. And of course, a few new offices, as we said yesterday, up for grabs: the governors and one of our Senate seats up for grabs as well. So it's going to be interesting, and of course, we're going to hear, I'm sure, a lot of opinions being voiced by farmers on what's working, what's not working, what they think needs to be changed. Of course, you can stop by our booth, our shed there outside of the Super Bowl by the cattle barn across the street from the horse barn there, as always. And we always have the markets up for you to take a look at, and you can see what's going on day to day with those reports. Of course, while we're there, one of the big crop estimate reports comes out. First crop estimate report comes out from the USDA. So there'll be a lot of eyes on that as well, especially with that heat we've been seeing. Did it take anything away? In fact, that's one of the things we're going to be talking about here in just a moment.
Well, plenty to look forward to with the Iowa State Fair as we get close to that. We'll go ahead and move on now to the market conversation. Dustin, I know you had the chance this morning to visit with Joe Camp of Comstock for that grain analysis.
Well, it's time now to go through the opening markets on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, being joined by Joe Camp of Comstock Investments, and a little bit of green on the screen in the grains here at the break. What are we seeing, Joe?
Leadership from wheat futures, once again, a connection to the war in Ukraine and this disruption of exports from that key Black Sea region. We're talking about previously up to a third of global wheat shipments coming out of the Black Sea, up to a fifth of the global corn trade with Russia and Ukraine, such key producers, but other areas as well encumbered. We're talking about Romania, Kazakhstan, a whole host of grain growers that are at risk of this conflict spreading further. They have broken what was previously the last basically 3 years a tacit agreement not to target these shipping lanes. And well, again, some attacks from Ukraine and Ukrainian drones on the Kerch Strait, which is heavily relied on by Russia. Russia having previously retaliated and probably threatening to do so again against Ukraine's infrastructure, including, like earlier this month, some grain silos and sunflower seed oil tankers that were hit. So that's leading to this war risk premium re-entering the mix for wheat futures. We had already observed throughout the month of July from low to high, $1.25 plus for Chicago wheat futures, and that's helped out the corn and soybeans. So far, they're up in a turnaround from what was a more negative day leading in on Wednesday. This thought that we're going to get some rain. We'll see about that. It's expected to start in the west tonight, and it'll all be about confirming that and verifying this forecast ahead to give the market its tone heading into the weekend.
It's a perfect storm of that weather premium, that war premium. Of course, U.S. Launches a counterstrike against Iran overnight as well, and like you said, the fact that the weather's playing into it. I mean, obviously plants like the heat; they need that to grow. But this heat has been pretty stressful on them all, and they need some of those cooler nights back down into the 60s at least for them to be able to relax and be able to grow properly without that much stress. Correct?
Such a critical stage of the growing season, absolutely, and we're transitioning into just as important as the month of August. We think about soybeans being made in August, but as you allude to, already stress on these crops for corn, the pollination phase in so many areas. We've gotten to a stage now where we can assess where we've been to date, and we know we're lacking generally on rainfall and that we're exceeding norms in terms of temperatures, including temperature lows overnight, which can stress the crop. This is going to be a subject, of course, of yield expectations being honed into the fall harvest, and starting with already the August 12 crop report. Surveys start going out, but there's also a reliance on a model-based yield that does account for what we talked about in July precipitation and temperatures as well. So to feel like, for corn in particular, that we could start to see yield potential docked, that's not out of the question, and it's been an underlying source of support for this market, which is why we can see prices still holding gains from where we were last year. A different trend where as last year, many years, we see this consistent slide into the summer months based on comfort growing about crop prospects, but that's the reverse of what we're seeing now. Possibly, though, with the relief of that rain we talked about coming this weekend, which is why so much is riding on the precipitation totals over the next, say, 3 days.
Get in the fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair and save before you go. The countdown is on to the Iowa State Fair, and now's the time to plan ahead. With advance admission tickets, lock in your visit before you arrive and step into 11 days of live music, fair traditions, incredible food, and summer moments you look forward to all year long. Save $5 now. Advance tickets are available now at iowastatefair.org, on the app, and at participating Iowa Hy-Vee and Fairway stores. Celebrate fair spirit at the Iowa State Fair.
August 13th through the 23rd.
Been all around the state of Iowa so far this summer to recognize our 2026 Heart of the County Fair Award winners. And Dustin, I figured we could talk right now about some of those winners. We still have a couple more to recognize before the Iowa State Fair gets underway, but we've visited with a lot of different families. And Dustin, I want you to talk about the family that you visited first at the Story County Fair.
Oh, yes. Wade and Pam Kaler, they have been involved with the Story County Fair for quite a long time. And it was good to talk with them and learn about their involvement. Of course, the Story County Fair, the grounds had some issues right before the fair when they got flooded out. And, they were among those people there that were helping rebuild, whether it was the chicken barns area around where the horse show ring was. A lot of work got done in a very short amount of time to get that fair off. And it's always about the kids there. That is what they call it. They call it the Story County Kids Fair, but it's all about the 4-H projects, the projects the kids are doing, whether it's livestock, whether it's their other projects, like the art projects and things like that get done, the whole myriad of projects you see at these fairs. It's about them, and it's about making sure they've got the venue to do these things, to be part of their organizations, their 4-H organizations, and do these kinds of things and get recognized for the hard work they do and earn that trip to the state fair. And for them to be doing that, helping run the swine show as well, and having been involved in the swine show for so long, they've done such a good job of that. And of course, you've met a few interesting people, and some great people that you've talked about in the fairs you've been to at Adair and Monroe.
Absolutely, and it was just such a cool opportunity to talk to these families. You mentioned it being about the kids. Well, at the Adair County Fair, I visited with Gerald Secra. He was our winner from that district, and I visited with him, his daughter, and then his grandson. They've got 3 generations, all still very involved at the Adair County Fair. Like you mentioned, I was at the Monroe County Fair as well, and that was for the Rosenboom family, and they are all on the fair board. That entire family is, even down to the kids. I mean, one of them's still in high school, and she's on the fair board. She actually decided to not show in the fair so that she could dedicate more time to that. And it's so interesting because not only, the dad of the family is president of the fair board, but one of his sons started a truck show there, and it's become so successful. They've raised like $40,000 for the fairgrounds. They've got country artist Jason Brown doing stuff with them as well. Really cool stepping stone. They all have that full support from their fair board. Then I've also been up to the Big Four County Fair up in Postville, and that was in June, actually, when we were up there for kind of their pre-show event, and I visited with Dana Stendel up there, and she had a very interesting story. She was the voice of the Hog Show, she said, and her sister was the brains who did all the numbers behind it. They revitalized the Hog Show after they unfortunately lost their father in a farming accident, and that was one of the things he enjoyed about the fair. And I thought something that was so cool is they said every weekend of the show it rains, and that's their dad sending tears down from above. And sure enough, on my way home from that fair, it rained for that drive back. So it was a very cool thing to get to experience. But we look forward to recognizing all of these award winners and more for County Fair Day at the Iowa State Fair. We'll have more Iowa Ag Matters in a moment.
ACM and CMA award winner, Hardy.
That's my favorite country song.
Live in concert.
I woke up on the wrong side of the truck bed this morning.
August 13th, 8 p.m., Iowa State Fair Grandstand.
You got it good, old boy.
With special guest McCoy Moore. Hardy Live. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Hardy 2026.
Time for the basis report here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Dustin Huffman. Only 3 elevators have made any kind of changes to their bids. Most of our elevators have switched to the November soybean contract, so I will point out the August ones still remaining. ADM Burlington 17 cents under on corn, $4.39. Soybeans 8 cents under August at $11.92. Cargill Eddyville 17 cents under on corn, $4.39 for the cash bid. New Co-op Algona 33 cents under on corn, $4.23. Soybeans 25 cents under, cash bid $11.83. Ag State Sheldon 19 cents under on corn, $4.37. Soybeans 40 cents under at $11.68. Ag State Alta 26 cents under on corn, $4.30. Soybeans 35 cents under at $11.73 for the cash bid. Cargill Cedar Rapids 12 cents under on corn. The cash price there $4.44. They're a nickel under on August soybeans at $11.95. Five-Star Co-op Nashua 32 cents under on corn, $4.24. Soybeans 35 cents under, $11.73. Lincoln Way Energy Nevada 22 cents under on corn. They're at $4.34. ADM Des Moines is a nickel under on soybeans. They're at $12.03. New Co-op Red Oak 20 cents under on corn, $4.36. Soybeans 20 cents under at $11.88. Mid-Iowa Cooperative Green Mountain 42 cents under on corn, $4.14. Soybeans 50 cents under, $11.58. At New Co-op Sheraton, they're 24 cents under on corn. They're at $4.32. Soybeans 25 cents under, $11.83. Walk-On Feed Ranch 43 cents under on corn, $4.13. Soybeans 54 cents under August at $11.46. New Co-op Glidden 31 cents under on corn, $4.25. Soybeans 25 cents under at $11.83. Innovative Ag Farley 41 cents under on corn, $4.15. Soybeans 61 cents under at $11.39. And finally, Cargill Muscatine, they're 28 cents under on corn, $4.28. Soybeans 18 cents under August at $11.82. Cash, corn, and soybean bids are subject to change without notice. Always check with your local elevator when making sales to obtain the most recent price. That's been a rundown of your basis prices here on Iowa Ag Matters. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
Rod Stewart.
When I see you tonight,
A special evening with the icon.
on a downtown train,
A night of hit after hit after hit. With special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th, Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart, live.
Well, coming up now here on Iowa Ag Matters, it's time for another grain marketing update with the folks at Landus Cooperative. Riley Smith has that for us right now.
Riley Smith, Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm here now with Micheal Weidner, Director of Grain Origination and Producer Strategy at Landus Cooperative. And we are here for our biweekly grain marketing update. And Micheal, we know that this week, it's only Wednesday, and it's already been defined by a lot of volatility in the grain markets. I mean, today we've got soybeans down 34. Monday, it was down 40. Huge losses in the grain markets. What are you seeing from those grain markets on the producer side of things? How are they navigating this?
Yeah, great question. Thanks for having me, Riley. Obviously, plenty of volatility here to start the week. I think you referenced that it's Wednesday, but it feels like it should be Wednesday of next week based on all the price action and stuff we've seen here this week as well as last week, right? So, aggressive losses to start this week. We came in Sunday with a lot of war premium being extracted and a little bit of weather. So crude oil was down aggressively, which had grains opening up a lot softer. We gapped lower. And, Monday was a bloodbath, a little bit of a recovery yesterday. But then we saw some follow through buying, failed at some technical levels today. And, that's why you saw the corn market down anywhere from 8 to 10 cents and then 24 to, 25 to 35 cents lower today. So it's been a bit of a roller coaster, that's for sure. But, going back to a couple of weeks ago, that's definitely why we look to have working offers in and take advantage of this volatility when we can.
And when we look at big price drops like this, I know we've been talking about recently that a lot of producers do have most of the grain sold that they want to have sold, but some of them still hold on to that old crop. And at this point, you're getting so close to the next harvest season, prices are this low. How do you navigate past that?
Yeah, that's a tough question to answer, right? There's not much old crop beans out there, and we've talked about basis strength across the Midwest really impacting that and probably carrying over into early harvest as well for some quick ship premiums off the combine. But the corn side of things feels like there's 15-20% of the crop out there. Growers kind of got this second chance here to reward this rally that we just saw through the month of July after a really aggressive setback in June. Guys did a decent job of it, but like you said, there's still a chunk out there. And, seasonally speaking, the time clock is ticking. And, the season will still point to sideways to lower in August just because the market has a really good feel that all this stuff's got to come to town ahead of the new crop coming off. So, with a close below 450 September board today, would expect maybe a little bit more downside pressure on the week as technicals start to break down. And again, the market kind of anticipating all that old crop corn that has to hit the market yet ahead of September 1st.
And when we do get into that harvest season, especially, how do we usually see farmers navigate that just on the marketing side of things?
Yeah, great question. Looking at that from our seat, we'd still be in the camp on the old crop stuff, probably throw in the towel and move the heck on down the road. Thankfully in Iowa, we're probably going to have a pretty good crop on the new crop side. So there's a lot of new crop decisions off the combine that are going to have to be made for the bushels that have to get sold at harvest, whether they're going on storage, price later, getting sold, putting on different strategies. And then already we've had some growers entertaining some 2027 risk management strategies for both corn and beans, at least putting a stake in the ground as they start to book some fall NH3 needs for the 2027 crop. So everybody's situation is just a little bit different, but we're looking at some pretty good opportunities relative to the last couple years. So, the hope is growers across the state rewarded that the last couple weeks. From our seat, we had some pretty good buying opportunities the last 2 weeks, and our farmers definitely took advantage of that.
And we've talked several times through these conversations. It's important to keep a level head as well, right? Because seeing these big price moves can be something scary right away, but there are ways to get through it.
Absolutely. The volatility, we got to use it to our advantage. I think a lot of the grain we bought last week was a product of the work we put in the week prior in terms of talking to our growers, staying in front of them, coaching them, teaching them, and leading them into using working offers, right? We had a heck of a good buying day last Thursday into Friday, and a lot of that was attributed to just using simple working offers. Called up one of our originators across the state, put a cash target offer in, and let that thing work for you in the overnights. And those guys that had those offers working, they're sitting pretty today, and really tickled pink on what they did. So, these down days don't hurt as much as they would if they wouldn't have had stuff sold.
All right, Micheal, lots of great information today. For anybody who'd like to get in touch with Landus Cooperative for more grain marketing information, how can they do that?
Yeah, they can go to our website, www.landus.ag. There's a contact form that you can fill out, and that form will come straight to me. So more than happy to reach out and visit and talk about the market's working offers and grain marketing strategies.
Looks like another perfect day to get out there and enjoy the summer.
You hear that? Live music, laughing kids, the roar of the rides, and someone yelling, "Corn dogs!" That's Fair Spirit at the Iowa State Fair, August 13th through 23rd in Des Moines. 11 days of blue ribbon traditions, big summer nights, incredible food, and the kind of memories you talk about all year long. This is your Iowa State Fair. Plan your visit now at iowastatefair.org.
August 13th through the 23rd.
Well, Dustin, like we mentioned, the Iowa State Fair coming up soon, and we know that you're going to be continuing your conversation with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig coming up very soon in today's show. But I gotta know, did he tell you his over-under for how many milkshakes he would consume at the State Fair this year?
He didn't. We didn't get into that. Normally we get into the total number usually when we're at the fair, because then he gives me at least a running total of how many times he's already been there. But I haven't been surprised that the dairy barn there hasn't put in a Mike Naig Express lane for the amount of shakes he goes to, because if you can't find him, two places the best look when he's not, doing things to help honor the agricultural and the farmers here in the State Fair is either in front of the cookie building or in front of the dairy barns. That's usually where you can find him, generally a safe bet. But looking forward to all that conversation, of course, conversation with the secretary coming up here real soon on Iowa Ag Matters.
Your local radio station keeps you connected to your community. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network provides ag-focused programming to keep your farm business running strong. Together, we bring you the latest markets, weather updates, and policy news. Whether we're in the field or in meeting halls, our team is always out and about gathering the news that's important to you. Powered by Iowa Agriculture, trusted by Iowa farmers. This message from your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
It's time now for a check in the midday markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith. On the phone right now with Naomi Bloom of Total Farm Marketing for a check of the midday markets. And first off, Naomi, what are we seeing going on in the grain markets here at midday?
Well, it's pretty quiet for corn and soybeans both, trading essentially unchanged from yesterday's close. We've had some two-sided trade between last night and earlier this morning, and markets are just maybe kind of content here to sit a little bit for corn and beans, waiting to see how much of this rain materializes, where it actually falls on parched soils, and how it might improve or maybe not improve crop condition ratings next week, Monday. On the wheat side of things, wheat prices still trading positive because of the most recent drama last night in the Black Sea region with escalation and fighting. So wheat prices trading a little higher too right now.
And then moving on over to the livestock side of the markets, how are cattle and hogs trading at midday?
So the hog market today down pretty hard, $2 to $3. From what I saw, it seemed a lot more like technical selling. Export sales weren't too bad today, so it feels again like technical selling there. I haven't seen anything different. On the cattle side of things, we've had some two-sided trade action. Market's still trying to respond to the border being opened with Mexico. We're hearing how the USDA is still working on even additional new sterile fly facilities at the border area, and watching to see where cashed cattle trades today. We are unfortunately hearing about more death loss from the extreme heat that the Dakotas had and some other western states. So we're keeping tabs on that to see if there's a number that surfaces on the death loss due to the heat. But that is probably why cattle prices maybe have found a short-term low here. Waiting for news to see if they have any reason to have a substantial rally higher or not. Otherwise, we could see cattle prices maybe just start to trade sideways over the next few trading sessions.
All right, Naomi, a lot of great information today. For anybody who'd like to get in touch with Total Farm Marketing for more, how can they do that?
Feel free to give us a call at 800-334-9779 or just look us up online, totalfarmmarketing.com.
That again was Naomi Bloom of Total Farm Marketing. We'll look at the numbers next.
Rod Stewart.
Will I see you tonight?
A special evening with the icon.
On a downtown train.
A night of hit. After hit. After hit. With special guest Richard Marks. Friday, August 14th. Iowa State Fair Grandstand. Reserve tickets on sale now through iowastatefair.org. Don't miss an electrifying event. Friday, August 14th. Rod Stewart. Live.
At midday, September corn is down 1/2 cent at 4.48 1/2. December new crop unchanged at 4.71 3/4. August soybeans up 1/4 cent at 11.78 1/4. November new crop up 1/4 cent as well at 11.93 even. August soybean meal up 70 cents at 3.16 even. August soybean oil down 66 cents at 68.51. On the Merc, August live cattle up $1.90 at midday at 229.80. August feeder cattle down 48 cents at 343.80. August lean hogs down $1.93 at 98.75. August pork cutout unchanged at 114.88. That's been a check of the midday markets here on Iowa Ag Matters. I'm Riley Smith reporting. Back on Iowa Ag Matters, and we're resuming the market conversation now as Dustin Huffman visited this morning with Joe Camp of Comstock Investments, and they're talking now about the cattle and hog markets and how they were performing this morning.
Cattle has had a couple of down days and now getting a little bit of a boost. But, yesterday the Secretary of Ag goes to Arizona as part of the gradual reopening of the border that they're going to do and talk about some more sterile fly releases. Plus, this heat is stressful on those animals, especially cattle have to bear the brunt of it, those who are out in the pastures and even the feedlot animals. I mean, what kind of pressure is weather putting on and what is the trade looking like? Let's start with the cattle side of it.
Yeah, to start with the weather stress, so we feel that on an individual level, talking with producers that have death loss. We think that'll be a bigger issue when you aggregate that, say, and start to account for it in lost numbers going forward, like, say, on the next cattle on feed update, or just generally speaking, the stress on weight gains and how we've already been on this trend lower. Of course, a turn down from such high numbers that were achieved in weights leading into just a couple of months ago. But this temperature extreme now even weighing further on production to pair with the smaller numbers that have already been that fundamentally bullish point of the market for so long. Up until just recently, right, we're talking still about the live cattle futures having gone on an unprecedented slide lower for the nearby August contract. It was 15 days straight down. We had a mixed set of reports last Friday, and then as we touch on the phased reopening of the Mexican border following the screwworm threat and the developments there, what we think about that would be still almost 4 weeks to go until that starts, and no mention yet of a timeline for Texas. So unfortunately, a lot that could go wrong, like the last phase reopening. So what we have this morning would be higher prices for now, and this possibility of having now 3 days in a row of a turnaround.
Joe, what is it looking like in the hog markets? They've had some positive days and then had a little bit of a turnaround yesterday.
Yeah, I think some technical pushback here because we have had a healthy retracement. It was such the slide lower that we're talking about 3.5 months, almost all down. And then a turnaround here as we headed into July, what we knew would be a breakdown in the production fundamentals, a trough overall for numbers seasonally, and that helping the market. It helped as well that we had the clearing out of the fund position mostly passed and put behind us. They reached almost a record net short and then started to start covering and taking the other direction. But then yesterday, having been turned down, I do factor in the technical nature of it, that the stock market was sharply lower yesterday, that we still have that general nervousness about the economy that might be impacting the meat trade here overall. And you see opposite of cattle. Some red on the screen again today after, again, technically speaking, yesterday completing a 62% Fibonacci retracement that those speculators like to keep a close eye on.
And we're back on Iowa Ag Matters to resume the conversation with Iowa Ag Secretary Mike Naig. Dustin Huffman continuing his monthly chat with the Secretary, talking about the Iowa State Fair, which is coming up very soon. And Secretary Naig is generally at the fair every single day with his boots on the ground, visiting with fairgoers and spreading Iowa agriculture.
And of course, all that culminates next month, as we mentioned, at the State Fair. I know IDALS has a lot going on at the fair. Of course, we could preview a few of those things because we always connect there at the fair to talk about how things are going. But, let's connect and talk about a little bit right now about some of the things that you guys are participating in and what people can see from IDALS at the fair.
Well, I always look forward to it, and I hope you're going to be in the same spot, so I know right where you are in your barn there. But yeah, it's a great this it's always special. Nothing compares to the Iowa State Fair, but this year especially, we'll have the America 250 theme associated with it. The theme of the fair is Fair Spirit, calling on the spirit of 76. Celebration, and so you're going to see America 250, a lot of patriotic red, white, and blue. Special commemorations and activities and foods and all kinds of things. So I think that's going to be extra special this year to be able to celebrate in that way. But of course, Department of Ag, we have everything from the Governor's Charity Steer Show, which the governor and I are already trading, sparring a little bit on getting in the ring. We have so much fun with that. It's a great cause, great kids, great cattle, great charity cause. But also, my favorite day of the year, honestly, one of my favorite days of the year anyway, is the Century and Heritage Farm presentation. And that'll be in the Historic Livestock Pavilion the second week of the year, the full week of the fair, the second Thursday. And we will be this year recognizing a record number of heritage farms that have been in a family for 150 years, and then some century farms as well. Over 500 families will be present. It's going to be a long day, but I am so excited to be able to greet every one of those families on the stage, present them with their award, and hear their stories. And there's always some incredible stories that come with it about how families endured. Oftentimes you'll have 3-4 generations of a family on the stage all at once. Those are memorable experiences, and we're looking forward to that event.
And of course, I always look forward to the Steer Show because it's going to be interesting as Governor Reynolds going to pull out one more win before her term is up, or is the Secretary going to pull it off this year? And we'll have to see how it goes. I know you're probably thinking the storyline is stacked against you.
Yeah, I think it could be, but I'm always reminded it is the Governor's Charity Steer Show, not the Secretary's Steer Show. But I've told her this is the last chance that she and I can go head to head, and so I'm going to bring my A game, and I know she will too. Now it's just such a great event, and again, the Ronald McDonald houses, the beef industry stepping up, showing out for that great charity, and really featuring our kids and those that are involved. It's a wonderful event and a lot of fun.
Now, of course, you mentioned the 250 celebration going on during the fair, but also Iowa, and you've been vice chair of that committee that's been working on that. You guys have announced what the big celebration is going to be for the state to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the country.
Yeah, so a lot of states had picked themes, and this was actually done months and months ago. In Iowa, a group got together and chose this harvest theme, Harvest Festival. Very fitting. You and I have been talking about it really throughout the year, and that's this idea that what makes Iowa's role in the American experience unique is certainly something related to agriculture. The fact that we have had the food and agriculture system that we have in this state, in this country, has been meaningful from our founding. You can't have economic security and national security if you don't have food and ag and energy security. And so Iowa plays an outsized role in that U.S. agriculture commitment. And so that's the whole idea here, is this is a way to sort of bookend the America 250 celebrations. Of course, it's been going on throughout the year. This is a great way to put an exclamation point on it. Have an entirely uplifting, celebratory, who doesn't love a good harvest festival, actually occurring during harvest, of course, which creates some challenges to get farmers involved. But hey, that's all right, because this is something that is actually happening in our state. Why not celebrate that? Completely uplifting, free, family-friendly, beautiful event. The signature event will be around the Capitol grounds in Des Moines, and really actually highlighting our farmers, our agriculture, our ag community. but also our veterans. And there are so many beautiful monuments in the grounds themselves that sometimes lots of people visit the Capitol, but they may not actually take advantage of get around the grounds. And I think we're going to put on a really nice event, a lot of great partners coming together, and just truly a unifying, uplifting event. And coming, frankly, at a time where there's been some division and some conflict. Why not turn the page and really think about this in an uplifting way?
In rural Iowa, we know you're sold on your local radio station. The Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network partners with local Iowa stations to deliver the latest in agriculture news, including grain elevator prices, market reports, and ag policy news. Trusted local voices, trusted ag content. This message is brought to you by your friends at the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, where Iowa Ag matters.
Well, that's going to put the wraps on today's show. You can find all our content, as we said before, at iowaagnet.com. Thanks to Riley. And, of course, thanks to you for listening. We'll see you back here tomorrow for the Friday edition of Iowa Ag Matters.